Hi YouTube, I'm back from Montreal. Today we're just going to work on this figure from Victor Aguilar because I did not have time to prepare anything new for the week and I'm traveling next week, so I didn't want to start a big project anyways. So we're going to do some painting on this figure that I started in a class, and yeah, we'll go from there. Easy peasy. I don't normally, actually I should dust it off. There's probably dust on it. Because it's just been sitting on a shelf for a month. All right. So, oh, you mean, wait, will this work? Can I do this? Hold on. Tools? Hey, how about that? Yeah, I'm going to grab some colors. Grab some various tones. And we can work on this little lady. Like I said, I have no idea what I actually used. So I'm just going to do some color matching. Shouldn't be too difficult to match some colors that I got here. Who am I going to see at SMC next week? Or Essen the following week? Not next week. 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, SMC. 3 weeks from now, Essen Spiel. Anybody? Cool. And what else did I need? My lenses? What did I do with those? So you can see how prepared I am since I have like... Did you finish your Golden Demon things? No. I'm probably going to touch up my Death Watch a little bit and just bring those for fun. But I don't expect them to get anything, so. There's always Adepticon. No stress. It's all good. All right. Can't always, you know, meet every deadline. I've got box arts I've got to paint. It happens. So we're gonna start by just trying to, yeah, that looks like a pretty close color to me. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to try and reshape a little of the face here. To get some proportions that I want. I want to fill out her cheeks a little more. I think also some parts of her are probably too dark. I want to up the light a little bit here. What color is the white? It's bone white. Probably going to go to an ivory at some point. But I think one of the things I want to do is I want to make her skin like a little more pale. So I'm going to push the general amount of light a little bit more. Right, something maybe like that. Then I'll have to push the highlights too, but just trying to get this to a level of brightness that I want. Something along those lines, maybe. Have to do a little squinting, it's fine, to see if it's quite there or not. Yeah. Okay. Now we'll take this and a little more of this guy, and we'll create an intermediate tone. Gonna blend it in to the base skin color that we had. Oftentimes when I'm working on class figures like this, I have to make quick decisions just for demo purposes. And even though if I was sketching like a figure for myself, I might like make a little more changes. I don't really have time to do that in classes, so I make a decision and then just kind of go with it. Where here, now that I'm sitting down and I can be a little more choosy, I can come back and make some alterations how I want. Saludos desde México, Eric. ¿Cuándo vienes a dar clases acá? Yo no sé. Es difícil para mí decir porque tengo mucho interés en los talleres. ¿Es mejor enviarme un mensaje en Instagram o algo? Vanish Square o posiblemente en el Discord. Vanish Squared, thanks for the Prime. And Dom's Minis, thanks for the Tier 1. 12 months. 1 year. Wow. Good day. Is this from Victor? It is from Victor. This is a... I don't know if she has a name. I've just been calling her Pretty Lady. So, no idea if this figure has an official name or anything. But this will be the next release from his brand. I think it's a very nice little figure with some pretty simple volumes and stuff. So it's just a fun little figure to paint. I want to give her a little more cheekbones. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, so we have sort of this shape, right? Where this sort of comes in. I'm going to have this come out just a little bit too. So we're going to kind of draw the face a little here to give her just a little bit of cheek shape, right? So she's not so gaunt looking. He's got a brand. I mean, he's selling. Yeah, 2 weeks to SMC. That's correct. He's selling figures like for himself. So. Make a little adjustment to the face shape there. And we have to blend that together. Well, InMotion did the casting for it, and I guess maybe they did the distribution, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy for these sculptors to now just, do their own brand, right? Joaquin has his, Hugo's got one coming out. Eric, I set a new record flying to and back from the U.S. over the past week, 27 hours with layover. Yeah, well, it just took me 16 hours to fly from Montreal to Virginia, so yay. Love flying. Ugo. Yeah, which should be like a 3-hour flight. It's only 12 hours from here to Montreal. If I was to drive from my house, it's 9 hours to drive from DC to Montreal. It's, yeah, real fun. It took me longer to fly home than it would have taken to drive by 4 hours. All right. I'm going to get a little more of that cheek shape. Still not quite right. Trying to get that shape just right. Give her some little more cheekbone. But it's getting closer. Cindo, writing with a party of 23. Hello, welcome in everyone. So now she has a little more light on her face. Now we can push it even more. Hi. Hello, welcome in, Raiders. How's it going? What were you doing? What were you working on? Push these highlights some more now that we've got some more general light. I don't want to hear Discord notifications. Quit. Zavis Dark. Hello, thanks for following. Cindo is painting a Space Marine. STHG, like what? Something like that? Who likes Space Marines? Ugh. Certainly not this guy. Did you guys see that new box of just Space Marine heads? I'm pretty sure they made that just for me. I am the target audience. Thanks. Yeah, I like the facial expression on this model a lot. It's nice and it's cute without being like, you know, overly sexy. Treader. Thanks for the Prime 7 months. Appreciate you. Welcome back. See you, Dom. Go make that cheddar so you can buy more plastic. Think so we have sort of this shape here that's like right in the center of the face, but there needs to be like, I've kind of talked about this before, but if we look, let's do the water trick, see how accurate my highlights are, right? I don't know how much you're going to be able to see it. Oh, there they are, right? So you can kind of see that there's that highlight here on the nose, that's pretty accurate. And it is showing up in the eye socket, but it's it's already bright. What I want to do is see how the highlight kind of comes up like this here. I want to try and connect these just a little bit. So it's not going to be like as bright, but I want something a little bit brighter, just to sort of connect these two. So this is going to get toned down. Probably need to add a little pink to it. But just to give a little shape here and sort of connect these two highlights, something like that. And then I'll blend this out and round it over. But yeah, they won't be as bright as the main highlight, but it's something to like keep the face sort of connected and nice and round. So get some of that face shape. And accentuate the cheekbones a little bit more. Hi, Sebastian. Yeah, it is the same In fact, the same bust. I just decided, hey, why not work on it a little bit more for fun. I want this shadow here to come up a little bit more. Should probably have just more light. She's very Audrey Hepburn. Dude, Audrey Hepburn was smoking hot. If you guys don't agree with me, well, then you're crazy. And we're going to grab some of this pink flush tone. Something similar in value, but a little more pinky. So we can add some more reddish tone to the face. Maybe not quite that light. I need to go slightly darker. I'm looking for a similar value to that over there. Was Audrey Hepburn one of the all-time prettiest actresses? Yes or yes? Yeah, slightly different in terms of... They're a little different, Sebastian. The Kaha models certainly have a style to them. So what I'm trying to do here is just add like a bit of blush. Some rouge to the cheeks. I think I want to define sort of the shadow a little bit more. Got to go Hope you have a great stream. See you at SMC. See you, Jonas. So, here in terms of shadow, I'm gonna push this shadow just like a little bit more. Not by a ton, but I want something like kind of dramatic. So we're gonna exaggerate that Terminator. So that we could do like another light over here, because I want like a light going around her jaw that can we're gonna do like a little bit of a rim light here. Like I kind of sketched it in just to accentuate the jaw a little more. I don't want this side as dark, and I'm going to take this and actually reduce it some. Hello, hi Dave. So here we're going for something like this value. This was like a little too brown. The base coat that I used was a little much. So we have a, sort of a shadow like that. And then this sort of exaggerated shadow. Now I need to come in and extend this shadow up here into the temple, like so. We can have something like that. Now we need to blend this in. Might be a little too dark. I don't know. We'll see in a second. It is exaggerated a little at the moment. So maybe as I blend, I will reduce it a touch, but I wanted to reestablish it because I want that sort of shadow shape to be pretty obvious for when I add the kind of rim light on the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the brown and the white here and get a tone that's like something around these, you know, but it's clearly lighter. You can see it's sort of the tone I used here. And this needs to go, probably needs a little bit more. So we're going to get this kind of bounce light here. And this has to go underneath the jaw. Which will then connect to the neck. And then that's going to come down the side of the neck. like so. So you have quite the short core shadow here. Which will then blend in to both the bounce light and the main light source. Then we create the core shadow of the neck, which is basically there already, but we want to make sure. So this is the cast shadow, which then is going to have the core shadow up around the neck. Come down like this. And there's some small bounce lights on the neck, but they're not very strong. So we want this pretty dark. Oh, I going out of focus camera. Is that right? Should be able to like line it up like so. I think I'm slightly off. Am I slightly? I feel like I'm slightly low. So let's fix that. How do you see this? I understand. I see it happening, but no idea. Practice seeing volumes, I guess. I mean, like, if you saw what I just did, like, I can imagine that the camera is the lighting, right? And I can kind of line it up in a way that my shadows line up, right? So you can see that shape of her jawline now lines up with the shadow I just made. And I create the, it's almost like the camera is the light source. Or in my case, I could line it up so that my eyes become the light source, right? So something like that. I can see the shapes. Now doing this, I can see that like part of her temple here is too in shadow. Because I can see a little more of it. So I need to bring this over a little bit. And then probably parts of this are too dark. Is that Aaron? Hello, welcome to Raiders. Hi. Welcome to the stream. Good afternoon, good evening. How is everyone? Looking at it now from this perspective, I could try and get a little more of this shape of her cheek and jaw. Something like this. Did you guys have a good laugh about the All right, see you later. Did you guys have a good laugh about the war boot drama? That was funny. Nothing's going on and people are just starved for some Warhammer drama right now. Yeah. And Siege Studios tried to like trademark the term and people were not happy. Because if there's one thing I've learned about Warhammer fans is they love when you trademark like generally accepted terminology, public use terminology. Big fans of that. Hi, Metalovich. Oh, I can give my opinion on it. It made me laugh. I got a good chuckle out of it. It's the Adeptus Warbutus. It's witchcraft. I actually sold my soul. I could have been like rich and famous artist like Banksy. Well, I guess, stayed anonymous but still be rich and famous. But I instead decided to put all of it into miniatures. Feel like it would be like selling your soul to be the world's best table tennis player. Eric, did you teach at the recent LVO that maybe looks like one of your classmates from the earlier LVO? I did not teach at this LVO, and it is, I did use this mini at Nova. In fact, this is my class demo model from Nova, and I'm just deciding that I felt like working on it a little more. I started with like probably what I did as like a, hour, maybe hour and a half sketch at Nova. And said, hey, you know what? Let's paint on it a little more. It's a fun figure. So here we are. All right. Here we go, chat. Ready? What would be the silliest thing you could imagine selling your soul to be the greatest at? The world's goofiest skill to be the greatest at for your soul. World's greatest kazoo player. That's a pretty good one. The beard and mustache champions. These guys are hilarious. I don't think being the world's greatest procrastinator is necessarily a skill. Oh, loudest burp. Heck yeah. Yes, I don't quite think being immune to Lego foot paint is a skill that you would get by making a deal with the devil. I think that's just a superpower. That's just like a really bad superpower. World's greatest yodeler. Yo-yoer is also pretty. World's greatest yo-yoer is also pretty bad one to sell your soul for. No offense to the world yo-yo champions, but if you sold your soul for that, it's pretty. I think I could have thought of better things. I think I need to bring up. You think with a few months practice you could become one of the world's best yo-yoers? I really don't think so. Those dudes are, to be honest, like, being completely honest, those dudes are pretty nuts. I imagine it's, like, probably really hard. Just like juggling, like world's greatest juggler. A lot of practice for that is the definition for the love of the game. Like, I don't see you getting too much return on investment, you know? I think my lights are still slightly off here. I think my shadow of my jawline is a little too high. So we're gonna readjust again. This needs to be a little bit higher. Oh, I'm sure World's Greatest Juggler, you could get a pretty good gig in like Cirque du Soleil, but you know, I'm sure there's saying there's some better things that you could be the world's greatest at if you know, that's what you were concerned with. That's a little better. Like, I can just see the dark line there, right? Like, I just want to barely see that shadow line. What if you went to make a deal with the devil and you're like, I want to be the world's greatest juggler. And he's like, sorry, I already made that deal. The best I can do is second greatest juggler. Hey Eric, is there any difference between using paper sheets or membranes on a wet palette? Diego, it's more just like how the paper sheets and the membranes, like the paper sheet tends to let a little more water through. So if you live in a pretty dry environment, like the paper sheet might work better for you. Sorry, bro. Already made the deal. I can give you second best juggler and world's best fire eater, sword swallower. Hi, Richard. They were fine other than my flight home. That was miserable. No, it got delayed. Oh, and then one of them was very cramped. I had a very large man sitting next to me on the airplane. The kind of very large man where you don't have an armrest because his belly is taking your armrest. Do you know any U.S. stores that sell burnt umber from my work? I don't. No. Eric, I'm hoping to get into Chimera's Velvet inks soon. When do you recommend using inks, adding to your mixes for more saturation? Inks I like the transparency of. So you can use them as filters or you can use them to mix in. They tend to be more fluid, so they're not good at like, tracing sharp lines, but if you want to use them to like either supplement your paints or to build like to filter colors, they're very good at that. Being the best. It's just, I'm going to sell my soul to be the world's greatest speedrunner of some obscure video game. I sold my soul to become the world's greatest cooking mama player. Could you imagine? Will you bring it at SMC? This figure? I don't know. I'm just having fun. This is not like... This is me just having nothing prepared for this week, so I'm just goofing around. Are reflected lights, like under the chin on this model, a desaturated shadow with a higher value? No, they're not always desaturated. It depends on what's creating the light. And is it a reflected light? Like, it might actually be like a backlight. So it really depends on where the light is coming from. Like here. Let me see. Can you see this? See my hand right now? It is a little desaturated. It's bouncing off of this white light that's on the desk, right? Like if I switch, hello, there's this white mat, right? So you can see here that like there's the core shadow that runs like or through the center of my hand, right? And you can see that the you actually can see like quite an intense like saturation here and like at sort of the terminator of my fingertips and stuff. That's because of subsurface scattering. Like your skin is slightly translucent, so the light sort of enters and then bounces around in the skin and it kind of comes back out at the you see it's like not at that bright shadow is not that much there. But anyways, so you can see here that because it's bouncing off of white, it's a more white. But if I do this, right, now it's bouncing off my arm. So it's getting some of the color of my arm. So you get a more warm reflection, right? Can you see that? The difference between that and that, it's now more like orangish, okay? And then if I take the palette, right, now it's a more blue reflection. So it's important to note what like color the object is that you're bouncing light off of in order to know like what it's going to do to the shadow. So it's not, there's no like rule to say like, oh, it needs to desaturate. Like you have to consider what it is that it's bouncing off of. Oh, I have a painting question. People often, oh, excuse me. Excuse me. I have a painting question. People often say that one of acrylic's forte is they are more transparent than oil, and I never understood that. No. In both cases, the medium is transparent and the pigments are the same. So how acrylics can be more transparent than oil? They can't. It's the trend. That's not how it works. You are correct, Melovich, that it's dependent on the actual pigment that's transparent, not that acrylics are transparent. Have you ever seen a mini at a convention that was obviously painted after one of your videos? All the time. In fact, the one I see the most is the Lucas, the Spira Mirabalis Dwarf Mercenary. That is the one I've seen the most, like, not identical to mine, but the lighting and everything is the most similar. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few of the Vikings, but the Spear Dwarf is the one I've seen the most of. Have you ever... you need more sunlight in your life? No. I've showed you guys my feet before. I've got tan lines from just going outside to smoke every so often from my flip-flops. This guy does not tan. I burn. The sun causes skin cancer. I will avoid it. Thank you very much. Do you have any tips on painting Slanesh models? I want to make them human flesh colored with green eyes. No, not specific tips. I mean, like, not general tips. I would need something more specific. What's one model you're a little tired of seeing in competition lately? I don't think I have one. Model I'm tired of seeing in competition. No, I don't think I can think of one specifically off the top of my head. I mean, yeah, I get a little tired of seeing certain Spira figures, but man, it's not like I would judge them negatively for that. I mean, I'm not going to fault Lucas for sculpting figures that are enjoyable to paint, you know? Like, knock it off, Lucas. Stop sculpting good figures. I'm tired of seeing them in competitions. Stop being so good, you jerk. No, I don't think I really have any. I don't think there's any specifically. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. I will be back in a few minutes and we will continue on. So, be right back. Hi, back. Okay. So, work on her some more. So I think my lighting is good now. Feeling correct. Feeling nice. Let's continue on. We'll continue to make some further adjustments. Really, I want it just like that. I'd like to do a little shadow under the nose. Anybody know what this lighting is called? Someone who remembers? What's this one called? It has a specific name. No. No, this exact lighting scheme that I'm doing has a name. If you've taken my Cast Shadows class, you should know. If you've taken my workshop where I go over Cast Shadows, you should know. Oh, no, it is chiaroscuro, but that's not lighting. Chiaroscuro is a painting style. Like, I don't think even people really know what chiaroscuro means. I'll give you a hint, a little reminder. Yeah, chiaroscuro literally just means light and shadow. Basically, chiaroscuro is referring to the innovation in art where they started using light and shadow to define three-dimensional form. Because before that, they just drew everything flat. Like if you look at really old artwork, like before the Renaissance, they would draw everything like super flat. All right, are you ready for your hint? No, it's not tenebrism. Tenebrism is what, like, Caravaggio and stuff did, where they used large fields of black. I know there is a lighting called butterfly, and it looks like a little butterfly on her nose. Very good, you got it. That's the one. It's also sometimes called paramount lighting. This is paramount lighting. So, majority of the face is illuminated except for a small cast shadow under the nose and a large shadow across the neck. Because it looks like the little cast shadow under the nose is a little butterfly. Yes, like for movies. Or Paramount Pictures also did like beauty photography in the 60s. In the 1960s. In the classic art terms, techniques started to slip into mini painting, or has it always been the case and it becomes more mainstream in the past few years? I don't think it's always been the case. I think as you get more people with kind of classical training or art backgrounds, it becomes more common. Understanding, I guess, like you get more teachers that are teaching classical art theory, Hold on, let me put the bounce light under the nose and you maybe will see the butterfly a little better. So we need some because we need the bounce light under the nostril. But basically the cast shadow that's formed under the nostrils, I need to actually darken inside the nostrils. There's a little shape under the nostrils that forms a little butterfly type shape. Can you see the butterfly now? Bounce lights, y'all. Getting crazy with some bounce lights. Bounce, bounce. How many colors, tones to express a face, technique or otherwise? Stunning work. Out of 4? I think you could pretty easily paint a face in 4 tones. A red, a yellow, a black, and a white, and I think you got everything you need to paint a face. I just shortcut a little bit by having pre-mixtures. Okay, what do I think about the side of her nose? I think this side of her nose is maybe slightly dark, so let's add some more pinkish tone to it. Lighten this up a little bit. This is going to wrap around. So I'm trying to make, like, this is the stage where I'm making very small adjustments, like trying to, see, I have like a hard line here. I need to round that over slightly. Ever so gently have the smallest gradient here. I think it could be, yeah, it's like this level of refinement, I guess. Right? These like small of marks. It's kind of a diminishing returns thing. You start to create like such small nuances and sort of adjustments that it's not doing a ton in terms of like defining the overall expression or volume, right? But it can be add something to the finish of the model as opposed to like really changing anything about like the actual facial expression. The facial expression basically we already had established, all right? Well, here's your class. Are you ready? Let's imagine. I'm going to add another color. Add a little orange. All right. Let's make the assumption that this side is a rim light. This is a light that's coming in from this side. Okay. Well, this is going to like go underneath her jaw. But then what's this light under here? Right? What is this? If this is if this is a rim light, yeah, like all this is a rim light, what's this over here? Bounce, 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 bounce. Yeah. Okay, so this is a bounce light. Sure, correct. So what's it reflecting off of? It's either going to be reflecting off of this or her chest and neck, right? Very likely her neck, that's the closest thing. So what is going to happen to the color of the bounce light on this side of her jaw, like underneath her jaw, compared to this side. If this is like a white light, right, and that white light is going to desaturate, it could be either. It could be more the blue or the skin. It just depends, right? If we wanted to do the blue, we could do the blue. Either would be correct. Well, maybe one might be more correct. I don't know exactly which one in this case. Right? So, okay, so maybe it's blue and orange. I don't know. Or skin. Maybe there's more blue light towards one side. But I kind of think that the skin is like the closest thing and maybe is a little more luminous. So you might get a little more reflection off of her skin than her shirt. So what is it going to do to the color of the light? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Are we going to have a desaturated tone or a more saturated tone? Don't mind me already mixing colors on the palette. It's going to be a more saturated color over here because we have light bouncing off something that's warm and orangish. So you're going to get more of an orange tone on this side. And then as it shifts around to where this is a different light source over here, you're going to get a more desaturated tone on that side. Okay, so underneath her jawline is really two different bounce lights. Or two different light sources. One is the light source reflecting off of her skin. Is it like multiply layers because they're the same color bouncing itself? Sort of, yeah. I mean, like you're filtering out the other colors and reflecting more of just the orange, right? Because if we reduce skin to its basic hue, right, each color is made up in any tonality, right? I don't want to say color because color has some connotation. Like hue and color are often confused. Okay, so let's assume. Let's call it a tone for now. All right. So if you have any tone, right? Let's like this tone. What you have three components. You have hue, chroma, and value, right? Hue, chroma, and value are the three things that make up any color. The value of this color is what? Light or dark? Or in the middle? Light. It's on the light side. Yeah? Okay. Easy enough. Okay. What's the chroma? High or low? The hue is not pink. No. Chroma is close to gray? I don't know. I wouldn't call this close to gray. My skin is closer to gray than this is. So I'd say this is somewhere in the middle. In fact, I would say it's probably pretty high chroma with just a lot of white. But the white does remove the chroma some. But I would say this is still pretty on the higher side of chroma than on the lower side, right? I could make a much more gray color than this. The hue is red, correct. It is more on the red side, okay? So, like let's say I wanted to make this, right? Here, I'll put it back on the palette, okay? So let's take this and let's take a red. You guys can all agree that this is red, right? Just bright red. the Photoshop color window is not the best description because you can have a color that is extremely high in chroma and be very close to black. Okay, so this is red, okay. This is clearly higher in value, so we have to add white. All right, so let's get it close to the same value. And you can see that, like, probably this is now similar in value, maybe even a slightly lighter. All right, so these two are basically now the same value, but one is more red and one is more salmony, right? But they're actually pretty similar in terms of chroma. Yeah, so this is actually pretty high in chroma. So what do I need to do? I need to add some, oops, not to that one. All right, so to get this closer to this tone, right? To get this closer to this tone, I need to add more yellow to it, or orange. Orange is red plus yellow, right? Or it has more yellow, so red, yellow, and white. Okay. More white. And would you look at that? They're like the same color now. Okay, the same tone. So actually this, what I mixed, this here, is pretty high in chroma, even though it has a lot of white in it. If I wanted to make something similar in terms of, I would have to desaturate it, right? And I could get something more gray that's similar in value, but much more grayish toned, you know? So this is much lower in value, or much lower in chroma, but similar in value. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so white desaturates also, so it does. So the white is going, but it's still pretty high. I mean, the only way to make it higher is to just not add white and just use like really intense color, right? But because it's so high in value, it loses some of the chroma. So, okay. Okay, so if we know, right? So we made this is like her skin is sort of this sort of color, right? So what hue is her skin? Right? As a general sense, what hue is her skin? No, it's not red. But this is more red than her skin is generally. Her skin is more these sorts of colors up here. Skin in general is what hue, guys? Orange. Yeah. So orange. Okay. So brown's not a hue. Brown is orange. Okay. Brown, orange is brown plus black. It's just dark orange. All right. Hue is what we describe a color as, like in the general sense. Like, this is a red, okay? This is a yellow. This is also a yellow, right? They're both yellow, but they're different colors. Even this is yellowish. It's more orange, but it's like yellow orange, right? So hue describes like what color you would describe it in the rainbow of hues, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? So if skin is orange, when the light reflects off of her skin, the other color like is reduced when it reflects because it filters out. All right. So more orange is reflected. Okay. So the light that bounces off of her skin is going to be more orange. Everybody's skin tone is orangish. All right. Some people might be slightly more red. Some people might be slightly more yellow, but everybody is somewhere in that orange range. Okay. Does that make sense to you guys? So when the light reflects off of her skin back onto itself, it becomes more orange. And the same would apply for light reflecting off of any other colored material. So if the light was reflecting off of her jacket or bouncing off her jacket back onto her skin, it would be more blue. So maybe further up might be more blue because it's going to get more here. All right. And then as it comes around, we're joining with a separate light over here that's more white. Like I'm going to do a more white light. Now, bounce light, all light has fall off, including the sun, except the sun exists on a cosmic scale. So it is irrelevant to how fall off doesn't really apply because we aren't painting on a celestial level, right? So we don't have to worry about it. But when it comes to bounce lights, the skin now becomes, for the bounce light, the skin becomes the new light source. Right? So skin becomes the new light source. So we need to consider that things further away, right, are going to get less light. And this isn't really going to happen here. One, because like the light on her neck, is because of the angle, is not going to get a lot of bounce light compared to the other part. In fact, it might get less just because of the angle. But you can kind of turn it like this. Like you still have to consider the volume, right? So the upward facing volume gets more light, but then is it further away? So like certain parts might get more light than others. It's similar to like if we had this and then like her nose was also getting light from her chest, but the nose is getting light from like her upper lip. So it's different in this case. So we don't have to worry about the fall off here too much, but it would be something that would apply if we were working on a figure with maybe like more detail. Now, if I want to make this actually another light source, right? If I want to do like a full another light over here, then I need to push this even more. So we take something that's like her skin tone and add white to it, right? So this might actually be a full another light, right? So now we're painting like a light like this. And then this light, as it starts to go away from the light, will start to join into this light and they will add together. You get something along those lines. And the ear would need to be a bit darker facing forward with some, yep, yes. So actually, I would do something like this, where I take some red and orange, and I do something like this, where the light's going to be like coming in through her ear, right? I'm not going to sit here and like explode, like go into like super depth about subsurface scattering, but basically like your skin has transparency to it, so the light will pass through thinner parts. So you get sort of light coming in through the ear at its thinnest. Something like that. And then you would have more of this light. And because of the ear, you would get subsurface scattering on the edge too. You would have like the actual rim light on the ear itself, like on the lobe. I can show you guys real quick if you want a demonstration. But basically, what we're trying to emulate is like this. And let me go to this camera and turn this off. Right? This is what we're kind of simulating. Okay, but from further away, you know, I have to get it past my hair. So something like that, right? Whoa. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Crazy. Yeah, makes sense. You guys got it? You're experts now. And subsurface scattering happens a lot of places that aren't like maybe necessarily obvious. Like, hold on, let me see if I can get it to do it. Can you guys look at me, right? Here's subsurface scattering happening in real time. Yeah? Can you see that this is more saturated than this nostril is? Right? If I tilt my head, because light is passing through this nostril, but the shadow comes down, and this has to go, the shadow on this side has to go through the cartilage, right? Which it can't really pass through to light up this nostril. So you get subsurface scattering here, but not here. And if I do this, right, you're getting some subsurface scattering happening like in the skin here. Okay, if I go right, like there's subsurface scattering happening in the skin. Is it technically subsurface scattering if light is shining through cloth? I think that's not quite, because it's like not a translucent material. It's light, like it's tiny gaps in the fibers. So I don't think it's quite the same thing. If we took like a semi-transparent paint, that would be subsurface scattering. I don't know if I have any that I could like shine the light through. But yeah, certain paints are semi-translucent. Skin is one of the places you see it more often, because skin is semi-translucent. Translucent. Well, Melovs, you can paint anything. If you understand how materials work, it's much easier to paint anything. You can obviously just like go based off of reference, right? Like it's somewhat easy to paint from reference, but when you don't have reference material to paint something, understanding how the material works will help you when you don't have that opportunity, you know? Yeah, just get a, I don't have a physics degree. Just get a PhD in particle physics, and you're good. You can paint whatever you want. I mean, you were talking about CGI. Like, I actually find CGI to be, like computer graphics, VFX, to be very relevant to painting, because that's essentially what they're doing, right? Like, they're trying to simulate light in the most realistic way possible. Like, simulate light, simulate materials in a way. Geez, my foot is like full on asleep, and I'm trying to set it down, and I can't find a spot. Yeah, they're trying to simulate light in a way that allows for a very realistic render. Go look at like the original Toy Story versus like Toy Story 3, and you'll see just how much better they understand material science in the CGI, like between the two. I have a hard time translating into painting what I see in real life or photo, but artworks like Netflix Arcane show where some animes help me to push a little further my knowledge. Oddly enough, the Mario movie helped me understand OSL better too. Oh, thank you, Bulb. Hi. I don't know how Bulb met. Anyways, what was I saying? As I ramble about material science. Oh, yeah, that's a good point about like studying art. I don't necessarily think studying art, but when we talk about painting, right? You have two types of painting, right? You have representational art and you have hyperrealism, and there's a whole spectrum of representational art, right? Impressionists are representational. Even some, what I'm doing now might be representational, right? And then as you get into people who like literally are trying to, draw, right? They're trying to not draw, but they're trying to make it look like a photograph, right? That's like hyperrealism. Realism, hyperrealism, and representational. When you make artistic decisions, you are doing representational art. And something like Arcane, for example, is more representational than something like... what's a realistic CGI movie? Or a more realistic one, right? Like there's a difference between, you know, cartoony CGI, like Arcane, right? Yeah, the Final Fantasy movie, right? They're trying to do like realism, right? Even if there is some representational. So there's certain things that we exaggerate, right? You might take some artist like, let's take, you guys know who Patrick J. Jones is? Yes, no, maybe. Maybe you're familiar with him and his work. Some might say that he's like on the more realistic side, but he definitely makes decisions. Yeah, he's done some work for Mineworks. He does like the pirates and stuff. Yes, I might say he's on the more realistic side, but a lot of what he does is representational, where he makes creative decisions, so he might exaggerate certain tonalities or whatever in order to create an effect that he wants, or some kind of look that he desires. So I wouldn't call myself a realism painter, even if I paint in a more realistic way sometimes. I take some artistic liberty to exaggerate certain things or whatever. You know? Or I'm just talking gobbledygook, and everything I'm saying is just made up. I'm just pulling stuff out of my you know what. How many Red Bulls are you on today so far? 4. Don't judge me. Was it super loud? Sorry. No, I started my Golden Demon entry. It's sculpted. I just haven't started painting it. And it's probably not going to get painted for Essen. Sorry to disappoint. Too much other stuff to do. Yes, I said sculpted. converted, sculpted. No, it's a normal entry. It's in a legit category. It's not open. It's not scratch, but it is like resculpted. I wouldn't say, I mean, obviously, like if I'm painting an entry, I'm aiming to like win the Slayer sword. But where was I going with this? I don't know. It's a figure. It's a Warhammer model. It's not 100% scratch, so it's a conversion. It is illegal. It is a legal entry. It's okay, Sam. I've won enough best of shows in Europe. I don't think anyone's worried about that. Yeah. A Warhammer model at Golden Demon? Yeah. How about that? That's crazy, right? Oh, I just gave away that it's not Lord of the Rings. Crap. Oh, no, I gave it away. Spoiled. Spoilers. Lord of the Rings has won the Slayer sword before. It's pretty rare, but it has. I don't remember the last time. I know Yame Ortiz won with a Lord of the Rings model one time, I believe. I heard Masklins is competing this year too. If he wins over you, will he brag about it? Will you, if you win? Would be funny to see both of the top painters tackling each other. Subpar the others. No, we wouldn't do that. We might do that a little. Mark and I have a friendly, competitive spirit with each other. I love Mark, and any sort of commentary on the other would be purely out of love and fun. And I've seen his entry, and it's really good. It's pretty good. Jeff Wilson won Slayer Sword with the Fellowship in 2006. I will say nothing about Mark's piece. Not what category it's in, nothing. Are you going to tell us what? No, I'm not going to tell you. It is, in fact, made out of a material that has some shape. Did you see Enor Dolimroth? I don't know what a Dolimroth is. What is that? Prince Dolimroth is the new... Dude, come on. You're hitting me with more acronyms. Prince Dolimroth is the new MESBG model? I don't know what that is. Oh. Just say Lord of the Rings. You're expecting it to be Deathwatch? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Maybe I don't even know. Except it's right there. So, who could know for sure? How much time do you want to spend painting your entry? I don't know, like a week probably? Maybe? That seems like a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, till it's done is till I wouldn't even say till it's done, till I'm happy with it. Till I look at it and go, yeah, okay, this is good enough. I do think this year's Essen is going to have quite a few pretty good entries from various people. I've seen some good ones. Some work in progresses. Yeah, I've seen Alberts, I've seen Andy's, I've seen Tebow's. All looking pretty sweet. So I think it's going to be an impressive year of entries. I haven't seen what Nicholas is working on. But Nicholas always does something quite nice, so I wouldn't be surprised. What do you mean, Richard? Who knows? Maybe I'm just saying that. Maybe all of this is gaslighting. Sebastian Archer won with Galadriel in 2000. You found another one. We got 3. There's at least 3 Lord of the Rings winning Slayer Sword entries. Yes, that is. I'll read this comment because looking through all the Slayer Sword winner on Golden Demon Compendium is absolutely wild how far miniature painting has come in 10 to 15 years. Yes, and that's just Golden Demon. I was having I was at dinner in Monte with a big group, including Albert and Maxime Pinot, and those two were reminiscing about old Golden Demons and like certain models, and it was so funny because they're so nostalgic for old Golden Demon, and they kept showing Tebow and I like these old models they were talking about. Tebow and I were just looking at them like they're like, oh, it was so good, like this thing was so amazing, blah blah blah. And we're looking at it and we're like, okay, this is pretty good, I guess. Like, yeah, it's fine. And they're like, no, dude, this thing was amazing. I was like, all right. You just don't understand. This was incredible. Like, sure. Also, there's an open comp piece that won Slayer Sword 2006. Yeah, Alfonso Geraldes Borjon Bermejo won with the 70. He did. He won. He has 2 Slayer Swords. Both of them, I believe, are fully custom sculpted. That's when the open category used to be able to win the Slayer Sword, which is no longer the case. In fact, now all custom sculpts are banned because we can't have any fun anymore. Pretty much, Flapjack. You have no idea how right you are. What was the question? Unless you sculpt it yourself. No, they're completely unallowed. Topulus, like you can't enter any custom sculpts anymore. No full. They must be based on a GW model. Yeah. Only custom sculpts, full scratch builds can only go in open now, which makes them ineligible for the Slayer Sword. So Maxime's like Nurgle Orc from a couple of years ago would no longer be allowed. Raf's Chaos Dwarf, Raf's Bohemond, the like Bretonian guy. Yeah, there's a whole like incorrect, Sam. Not what happened. But I'm not going to go into it. This shadow is probably too dark. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Don't need it quite that dark. Let's blend the two. It still needs to be like the darkest shadow, but it doesn't need to be like that dark brown. All right, was your Imperial Fist a custom sculpt? Yes. Judges scrapped. Hold on. I heard that judges scrapped the stupid rubric at LVO again last week, and it was a good call. 2/3 of the judges would have to give you a perfect score for gold. Cool. No comment. Hi, 2A. Hey, 2A, I'll see you in a couple weeks. Yeah? No, you're a judge, right? Well, we're not judging together, but we're both judging. So we'll be on the jury together, I believe. We are not on the same judging team. All right. Me too. Should be a fun one. I've never judged with Mark before, so it should be pretty interesting, enjoyable. Master painting with Mark and Albert. Senor Masclans. Yeah, I think so too. No, we're just going to crush everyone's spirits. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, just be super. I'm gonna go full Gordon Ramsay on this category. What did you do with the highlights here? It's disgusting. I wouldn't feed this paint job to my dog. It's fucking raw umber. Organizers have a tendency to just go for all the high rollers in a specific direction, but quite often you'll end up with teams that agree. Yeah, I don't know. I've personally never experienced a team that's like that. I mean, I've had groups that are easier to judge with than others, where we agreed a little more, but I don't feel like we necessarily like shared the same opinions. I think we just kind of came to the same conclusions. Painting question again. All right, here, glasses off. Let's read. Painting question again. I want to paint a big OSL on a mini. Bayard's Revenge. Is that the Emperor's Champion one? For me, his sword has a purple light, but I don't know how to start. Will it be easier to paint everything without the OSL than adding it or planning it before I start to paint? In short, I try and find the easy. I normally recommend painting the OSL at the same time. So you don't do one, like you don't do the whole model and then add the OSL. You do it all at once. That's just like my opinion, man. What milestone can you look back on that pushed you into judging Masters categories? Was your first judging Masters, or did you start a level prior to Masters? I've never judged anything. I've never judged Standard. I've always judged Masters. I didn't start judging competition, like big international competitions, until after I won like some best of shows. Nobody really even knew who I was prior to just like, I won. This is going to sound, okay, putting aside, trying to not sound arrogant, just speaking the truth. I won best of show with my second Monte. I won gold at my first Monte. I was a relatively unknown painter at the time. Bane Bloodhoof was your second Monte? Yes. I tend to judge in the storytelling area, and I'm always the one who have to fight for the technical stuff to place. The other judges tend to want the loose artistic stuff, and while it's what I want too, we still need to give credit. Yeah, that's... It can be hard, because, like, you still have to consider that, right? Like, you can't just... You can have a good idea and poor technical execution, and it's like you can't just award it because of the idea. Like, it's not an idea category. You still have to execute on the idea. To be honest with you, I actually don't like the storytelling category. I like it from a, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, Flapjack. Um, yes and no, Sam. Like, not every miniature has to tell some elaborate story. The point of the storytelling category, I understand the intention of the storytelling category. It's to award like outside of the box thinking that might not place in like the painting categories where they're judged more heavily on technique. But like, what's the word I'm looking for? From a belief standpoint, whatever, from a magical fairyland standpoint, I think that the every category should be judged on its storytelling also, if that's part of the model, right? But maybe I live in magical fairyland. Yeah, you're telling me. What fey creature would I don't know. I don't know all the fey creatures. I know what makes a fey, and they're just like fairies and maybe dryads fey. I don't know. Not up on my fey creatures. Are tieflings fey? It's getting difficult to put. I don't know if it is, to be honest. Depends on what you call technical painting. I think there's actually like a significantly long way to go, to be honest. Like, if we're talking about technical painting. And I think we have these like whiplashes of like, because we could talk about like technique from a, I was talking about representational art versus realism earlier, and you can swing that pendulum back and forth, and I think it's swinging back a little bit now, where there was this, and we can say Alfonso whatever was the inspiration, but you have someone like Alfonso who's pushing this more illustration style, right? And then I think some people start to like misinterpret that as like, oh, sketchy is fine, and then it starts to swing back the other way. Like, no, you have to actually like render some areas. I think other than someone like Mark, maybe, who can, pull off a sketchy figure with like high rendering, right? Like, I don't think many people can. I think people confuse like expressiveness for sloppiness. Yeah. But if we take someone like, what's his last name? Jamie, a man painting miniatures, right? Jamie Foster. You take someone like Jamie Foster, right? Who paints in a much more expressionist style or whatever. Like, he's someone who's really like on one side of it, who I think he does it like super well. And then you have other people that kind of lean the other direction, right? So you're getting more technical. Like, he is technical in a different direction, right? So what he does quite well. Like, he does really well. In fact, I would say he's probably the best at what he does in the miniature painting world, but still nowhere near what is done in the 2D realm. I think the same can be kind of said for the 3D painters. That's not where I wanted to go. I want to go here. We don't need to look at Kill Team again. How many Roberto Fieri mimic, like, fan arts do we need? Studies, whatever, copies, whatever you want to call it. I've done one, right? How many of those do we need? And no one has achieved the level of representing an actual Roberto Fieri. Like, I feel like I came pretty close. I think Mark has come pretty close, and I still don't think anybody has, like, either of us have, like, nailed that level of, that style or precision or whatever. So all of that to say is I think there's actually still a really far way to go. We all suck. That's what I'm trying to get at. We're all still a bunch of noobs. The more you learn you suck. That's right. But I think in the other direction, you're right too, in that, like, people will continue to push the creative aspect of it and expand on that also. Which, sure, when it comes to, yes, if you're talking about technique in terms of, like, how smooth can you blend? Like, okay, sure. People have been good at blending for the last 20 years, right? But that is not the technical side that I'm speaking of. I am speaking on a broader term volume interpretation, color theory, value, like usage of like how good are you at using value, right? These are things that I think like could still go a really long way. You know, you take someone like Kirill, for example, who people consider an extremely technical painter, and I do too. Like, is anybody rendering materials like that guy is? Okay, so if he's up here, right? He's in like way up here. Like we got a long way to catch up just to Kirill, and he could. I'm pretty sure he would tell you, like that there's still more to go, right? Hi, Ghoul. I wish I could talk to that. I haven't talked to that dude in a while. Would like to speak with him. That's why I really enjoy Banshee and Maskin's interpretation of miniature, or because it's not any wordle amounts of technical blending and still have an exact idea of what materials, emotions, etc. Yeah, I mean, don't get it twisted. Mark can paint extremely smooth if he wants. I also don't think Andy paints as smooth as he used to. He still does from time to time, but it's not as much. I think people have. Anyway, I mean, and there's times you should be smooth or sharp or whatever, and there's times you don't need to be. I'm not sure there's a ceiling either, but what I'm getting at is some people think that we're close in certain aspects in miniature painting, and I don't think we're even like in the ballpark. And it's improved a lot, and I still don't think we're even close. Okay. Well, I just spent a long time on her face, and I think it's pretty good now. Maybe I'll still add like a little bit more pink here and there. I'm gonna glaze a little of this guy. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there... I think you're going to have people that explore both. You know, someone like Jamie Foster who's exploring more on the expressionistic side of painting, which I think is super interesting. And then you have others, myself like included. I sort of tend to go multiple sort of paths with mini painting, where sometimes I like to get really into the material science and lighting and other things, and then other times I try and be a little more illustrative and stuff. So I think there's so much to explore, right? Yeah, that's where I agree too. I think it has been helpful with that. In my dream world, like, we wouldn't need any categories really. You could just have divisions. I guess the open category you should keep. Like, there should be open and painters, and that's it. And I don't think you should have historical open and fantasy open, but if the judges aren't able to put their biases aside, I understand having the multiple category, like the separation of the two categories. But like, in the end of the day, there would be three categories, and that's it. Sculpt, open, painting, and that's all. And then you would have, yeah, beginner, standard, masters. Oh, anyways, I think I'm done for the night. I hope that was interesting. Nice conversation. I didn't talk, well, I guess I talked a bit about the actual painting on this lady, but, you know, we talked more about other stuff. So anyways, still like plenty of work to do on her. Just did a bunch of rendering. But you could say, like, it might not feel like a lot got done, but this is like a perfect example of, like, you can get 80% of the work done in 20% of the time, right? Like, where I started was like an hour worth of sketching, and then I sat here and like rendered for 3 hours, and it's like, cool. You know, I mean, I was talking a lot, but you could see just how much time you can sit and spend doing what I would call probably diminishing returns. But she's pretty. I like her. Yeah, but the neck, though. Yeah, the neck is not super rendered. Oh, not really. I don't know, maybe. More just like readjusting some of the proportions of her face and stuff. Here's a fun model. Check out Victor. Should release this model probably soon-ish, I would think. I don't know exactly when. When is the next stream? Like, no, yeah. So the next stream, well, I'll do a feedback Friday this Friday, but the next, like, painting stream will be like in November, because I'll be gone. Hi, Octavius. Yeah, so I'll be gone for a month, 5 weeks. 5 weeks in Europe. I will be in SMC and then Essenspiel, and then 2 weeks of workshops, and then I will be in Monte, and I will be going to a wedding, and I will come home after that. Yes, I'll be in Germany for 2 weeks. Essen and Hamburg. And then I will be playing Silk Song. That's my plan for when I get back. My vacation will be torturing myself in Silk Song, and it will be very fun. Anyways. All right. Let's